Hi, I'm Dr. Vijendra from the Healing Zone. In the 3 previous videos, I've given you some basic information about cancer cells, what causes cancer, and what are the characteristics of cancer. When a cancer diagnosis is made, very often this comes with a huge dose of fear that is infused into you, because the doctor often tells you in very frightening terms what this cancer can do to you, how dangerous it is, what is your survival chances, using this or that method. But what is unsaid, and this is very important, is cancer has weaknesses. Now, as we deal with this enemy called cancer, it is important you to understand what are those weaknesses. So in this little video, I'm going to be talking on some of those weaknesses, which hopefully will allow you to learn the little tricks that can be used against cancer. It's a little bit like a Sun Tzu art of war. Know your enemy and his weakness, and you have a better chance of beating this enemy. So let's look at one of the most fundamental functions in all cells in our body. Whether they are normal cells or cancer cells, they all need to produce energy. So this is a little cartoon I've drawn of a normal cell and a cancer cell. Now this is a cell membrane, and this is a nucleus with a mitochondria. Now this is the key organelle in the cell which produces large amounts of energy. This essentially functions like a nuclear reactor in the cell, that it is able to break chemical bonds in food and captures this energy and stores it in the form of electricity. So in this normal cell, the cell can break down carbohydrates, and in the simplest form you will get glucose. So one glucose molecule, when it is completely broken down using oxygen in a process we call oxidative phosphorylation, is able to produce about 36 units of ATPs. These are currencies of energy and the byproducts of carbon dioxide and water. And this happens in all our cells all the time. Now, in cancer cells, things are a little different. They thrive, or they are forced to thrive, in an oxygen depleted environment. Their metabolism is altered. Their mitochondria are damaged, and they are generally unable to produce energy using this oxygen-based metabolism that occurs in normal cells. So they resort to, and for good reasons too, which we will understand later, that they break down carbohydrates into glucose, and without oxygen, in a process we call glycolysis, they are able to produce energy, but the energy that they produce is very limited. So one glucose molecule is only able to produce 2 ATPs as opposed to 36 units when we use oxygen-based metabolism. Now this is very interesting, because energy is needed for the cells to grow, multiply, invade tissues, metastasize, and everything. So if cancer cells are producing so much less energy, how do they overcome the normal cells and become so aggressive? Now, in order to understand that, this is in the cells of all the cells, in the cell membranes, we have receptors. Using these receptors, the cells are able to pool sugar inside, using insulin, obviously. Cancer cells are able to upregulate this process many times, such that they have the ability to pull a lot more sugar. And we know this for a fact because when we do a PET CT scan, we are using actually radioactive or tracer sugars, which are picked up in large numbers by actively dividing or actively metabolic tissue. So what cancer cells do is to compensate for the low energy production, they burn a lot more of this glucose, maybe 10 to 15 times more of this sugar. So this seems like an energy inefficient way to produce energy. But then we must remember, cancer cells are smart cells. And the reason they do this is because for another important need. They need not only energy, they also need building blocks. They need building blocks to build new cells and all these other parts that they require. In a normal cell, the 6-carbon glucose molecule, 6-carbon molecule, or C6H12O6, is completely broken down into carbon dioxide and water. But a cancer cell produces 2 of these 3 carbon molecules we call pyruvate or lactate. Now, what is important is the cancer cell then is able to shunt this into many pathways, making new sugar. We call it gluconeogenesis, makes new fats, it makes new proteins or amino acids, it makes nucleic acids. So this provides all the building blocks for the cell. Knowing this, the question that we ought to ask ourselves is, what if we eliminate carbohydrates from the diet? Of course, this is not possible to completely eliminate, but what if we can? The normal cells then are able to resort to breaking down fats, a completely effective hybrid system of energy production. The fatty acids can be broken down into ketones. These ketones can be fed into the mitochondria, and they are able to produce actually even more energy than carbohydrates. So a normal cell, depending on oxygen-based metabolism, is able to switch to producing energy to a different source quite easily. So one of the reasons why we would advocate converting your diet from a very carbohydrate heavy diet into low carb and high fats. But what about the cancer cell? Now, when you take carbohydrates out of the picture, they are less able to break down fatty acids because their enzyme systems are damaged, they are or maybe altered. Their mitochondria are not functioning, they don't have the right oxygen uptake and environment, so they are much less able to switch that easily. So this, in a way, by switching what you eat, by changing your diet to a low carb diet, you can give the advantage to the normal cells, the immune cells, and disadvantage the cancer cell. So this is one weakness that we are able to exploit. So this is the importance of shifting towards a ketogenic diet. Okay, and this is not that difficult to do, and our nutritionist will be able to assist you and guide you on how you can make this change. Now, another important weakness that we are able to exploit is from this amazing molecule called vitamin C. Vitamin C is something that we can't make in our body. Plants make vitamin C, and from glucose, through 4 steps, they are able to make vitamin C. Glucose and vitamin C are, you may say, structural analogs. They look alike and they use the same pathways, these receptors, to get in and out of the cell. So naturally, when we use high doses of vitamin C, more of this vitamin C will tend to get into cancer cells and around cancer cells. And this is a very important benefit because vitamin C in low dose can act as an antioxidant, but in high dose it actually becomes a pro-oxidant. As a pro-oxidant, is able to produce a lot of free radical like ozone, singlet oxygen, hydroxyl ions, hydrogen peroxide, and so forth. And these are actually highly radical substances which can damage the biomolecules of the cancer cells. So in effect, acting like a chemotherapy. Now, not only that, this is also protective for the normal cells, because normal cells are able to produce certain enzymes, glutathione, peroxidase, dismutase, or catalase, and this can safely neutralize all these free radicals to water and oxygen. Cancer cells generally have much lower levels of these enzymes, therefore they are less protected from this pro-oxidative stress that vitamin C is able to induce. And this is just one of the many effects of vitamin C, because it also upregulates your immune system, your phagocytic index, improves your collagen metabolism, detoxification pathways, and so forth. Now, the point here is, by exploiting cancer cell weakness, we can defeat cancer in a very different way, by dietary change, and two, using vitamin C in high doses to effect a cancer kill effect, a cytotoxic effect like chemotherapy. Now, there are many other weaknesses. One that I will just mention in passing today would be cancer cells are also sensitive to heat. So hyperthermia is another method that we can use to directly injure or kill cells or alter the metabolic processes in and around cancer cells. And this is very safe to do. And this can be in the form of localized heat therapy or hyperthermia, or generalized hyperthermia. Now, as you can see, there are many built-in weaknesses into cancer. Knowing this allows us to utilize methods or tools other than chemotherapy or radiotherapy in dealing with this cancer. I hope this little video or discussion gives you an idea that you can take control of your cancer fight by taking positive steps, for instance by a dietary change. I hope this information will be useful to you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you.